How's it going, everyone? And welcome back to another Adobe Live. We're here for part two. This is Amber Torrealba and Paddy Mack, and we're here to show you a little bit more into what we were working on yesterday. If you didn't get a chance to follow us yesterday on our part one, feel free to link back to the Behance after this, and you'll be able to see our live part one and where we got a chance to put together this travel edit that we're working on. We were able to put together a couple things on the timeline, show you the basics on how we set up, organize, and do a little bit of speed ramping and things like that, kind of diving into the edit and trying to get down a basis for where we're going to take it and finalize it today. So thanks again for joining us, and we're stoked to be here to take some time to edit with you. If you haven't got a chance to see what we were kind of all about yesterday, I'm a professional skimboarder and so is Paddy, and we both kind of travel and work together on films and projects for clients or any sort of sponsors and things like that. And I'll let Paddy also tell you a little bit about himself as well.
Like she said, I'm a professional skimboarder as well. I've been skimboarding for most of my life, and I'm also a videographer and a drone pilot as well. And yeah, I've been working with Amber for quite some time now, putting together edits like this and going to the beach and, integrating skimboarding into our day-to-day projects and, really kind of trying to keep things fresh and keep things fun. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, 100%. This is just an example of some of the edits that we've worked on over the years for clients and also for ourselves, just having fun. We've worked on everything from social media videos to YouTube videos to, anything of that nature. So this is like a little bit of kind of like a mixture of what we've been working on. Let me just close out this one here. So we've worked on everything from, my background comes from, starting on iPhones and GoPros and smaller cameras, teaching myself my filmmaking along the way for the past 7-8 years. And now we've kind of progressed into working with, not only me and Paddy kind of directing and helping put together, a team to kind of make these videos, getting our different angles, and not only now working with just our own angles and our own cameras, but having that kind of arsenal of work that we can kind of put together with a team and getting all the different angles like you see of drone and everything like that. Paddy is my main DP on all of my projects, and it's been really fun for us to kind of grow together throughout the years on all the projects that we've been working on, and really kind of just have fun with it. We've been to many different countries that we've had to really just travel with so much gear and so many different opportunities that maybe that didn't go the way that we thought because of weather and conditions that we face as professional skimboarders. It really puts us into this zone where we have to be prepared for anything. And it's very different than the filmmaking maybe in a studio or something that's completely planned, because sometimes we'll go into it with a full plan to, execute, shot 1, shot 2, shot 3, and we get there and the lighting is completely different, or maybe the waves are not there anymore that we expected to be there, and you really have to work with what you have. And that's kind of what we were showing you an example of yesterday, of kind of having only a certain amount of clips to work with, and us kind of basically working with the clips that we have and trying to come back and make a travel edit with maybe not getting all the clips that we wanted to get. So yesterday we worked through clips out of a bin that we were already kind of set aside. We named them, we put them in different folders, so that way we can stay organized as well by different cameras and everything like that you can see here. We have them mixed up into, what location that they were shot in. We actually were able to go to Mexico. We recently came back, and for this particular story that we're putting together, the scenario is that we went to Mexico and we came back and we didn't get all the clips that we wanted. So working with what you have, it's important for this YouTube video that we're kind of structuring and putting together. It's to kind of be able to make something out of the story even when you feel like you didn't finish what you wanted to finish. So we have these clips from Mexico, and what we ended up doing was we took old clips from Laguna onto this timeline, and I'll show you where we kind of left off. Now, to save some time, we added in a couple clips and put together some of the clips that we were working on yesterday, just to kind of get a better flow, so to get a better idea of where we left off. So we're gonna go ahead and look in this left hand corner here to watch where we are picking off today. Go get one. All right, my hands are frozen. I think we're done out here. Sorry if there's a little skip in there. And we just added in this clip before we actually opened up this project, because we wanted to put in a little surprise for you. And we actually have a few more clips to kind of organize and put on the timeline together, but we didn't want to be a little too redundant of you seeing, how we were cutting up clips. And, we kind of went through that. So you can check out part 1 of that, of how we actually cut these clips together, how we choose transition moments. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that today. The fun part about it is Paddy and I are going to show you how we edit with different little effects, sound effects. We're going to go through titles and masking, just all sorts of different ways to kind of polish this particular edit where, we have these clips put together, but now we want to make it actually flow. So to kind of get started here and putting this clip, what I would like to do, because I think this is also pretty fun, is Paddy is, like I said, he's a professional skimboarder as well. And he got this massive, well, he wouldn't consider it massive, but I think it's a really cool wave in Mexico. So he'll slow that down for you and show you what that looks like to slow a clip down. Well, that's where we kind of left off on part 1. And we'll go through and see how this wave looks. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, like she said, I was able to get a couple waves on the last day, and the part of the clip that I'm going to want to slow down is right here. We're going to want to take this whole section and we're going to want to slow that down. And to do that, we're going to make sure that all the positioning of the clip is all good, like our keyframing and everything like that. With Premiere Pro, you want to make sure you get your keyframes taken care of first before you do your speed ramping or doing anything like that. So to get started doing your position keyframes, you're going to want to go up into your effect controls tab, and you're going to want to select the clip as well that you want to actually change. And we're going to want to make sure that we are all the way at the beginning of the clip. Right. We're going to want to make sure that we're all the way at the beginning of the clip right here. So once we're there, we have our motion tabs up here. We want to make sure that this is clicked. You'll see a keyframe pop up right here. That's the start. And I like where that is because I'm right in the center. And what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to push over the over arrow tab on my keyboard. And it's going to let me skip 5 frames instead of 1. I always feel that skipping 5 frames like that and finding your keyframe, we're gonna so it's skipped like that a little bit. So what I'm going to do is it's in full resolution here. I'm going to take this down to half resolution and see if it plays back. With keyframes, you want to make sure that you're on point with the keyframes that you're placing. So see now as I click over, we can see that it moves with us. So as we do that, I see that right about here, I'm a little bit out of the frame. So I'm going to go to this position tab under the motion again, and I'm going to click the left where it's 960. I'm going to drag it just like this to make sure I'm in the middle. And I just drag this. This was at 960. I'm going to redo it just so you guys can see. But I'm just going to do that, and that's going to pull me to the middle and automatically set a keyframe. So from now, we'll see a smooth transition, and I'll stay in the middle of the frame, at least until here. And we're going to go through the rest of the clip, and I'm going to do it again right here.
And there's also another cool feature for this, right, called auto reframe that you can use if we end up cutting it down for social media. And we'll show you that in the meantime. This is always great to do it manually, like he's doing it here, because with keyframes, you can really make sure you dial it in per frame that you want to get it. And another way to do this, right, would be to start at the beginning and then scale it inwards. So that way, as the clip is playing all the way out, it's focusing closer and closer on him.
Oh, that would be really good.
One thing we've noticed about clips like this is sometimes you may go into a scenario where you capture a clip and you're like, oh man, like, well, this was really a sick clip, but it's not close enough. Like, the person or the subject is so far away. So one thing that you can do is start that at the beginning, and Paddy could maybe show you an example of that as well. But there's plenty of clips we can even do that on, even if we don't do it on this one, but we can get closer in there so we can see him actually in that wave a lot better.
And if you're stuck in a position like that, where you've done your positioning and you've gotten yourself all centered, there's no harm in doing the same thing. The scale is right underneath the position. It's going to be right here. And we can make sure that we are at the beginning of the clip, and we're going to click that stopwatch again right here. So and if we want to zoom in or zoom out, whatever we want to do, that's going to be the start of the clip there, but we're going to have it slowly zoom in. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with position, just going to hold shift and click over, and you'll see as it goes like that, as if it starts to zoom in, because we've already keyframed, we're going to see that this black bar starts to show up. So we don't want to do that. So what we would have to do is we would have to change the position keyframes. And that's just a little lesson that we can take home, that maybe if you want to, maybe start with your scale first and then keyframe.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good opportunity to see how auto reframe works.
Yep, I think so.
I think it's really good. And to delete all of your position keyframes, it's very simple. You go back to the stopwatch, you click it, it's going to prompt you, and you're going to say yes. And we can do the same thing. And so now we can start with scale. Let's do a slow, gradual zoom in. And we know that we want it to zoom in right at the best part of the clip, which is right here. So let's have a keyframe. We have it set. So let's zoom in here. There we go. And I know that I have a lot more clip to work with. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to work with the auto reframe feature that Adobe has built in. It's software that will automatically place the subject in the center of the frame. And we're going to reset that so we're good. But see that slow zoom in?
And you can also adjust that size too, like because you have so much to work with. You can bring it down when you're in the barrel, like that way. Maybe when the camera's lower, one thing I like to see is like a little bit making the wave bigger. So that's also another opportunity as well. And
to be completely honest, since we zoomed it in, I think there's a lot less keyframing that needs done in terms of position. If we do exactly what we did before, we start again. I think the only real positioning that we kind of need is maybe let's add a keyframe here. Let's pull this over just a little bit. And yeah, I mean, I think once we get here,
you can actually like lower it, make sure
pull it up
the way. Exactly.
Like this. There we go. And now that makes the wave look a lot bigger, and we could even pull it over just a little bit more. And yeah, we didn't use the auto reframe feature. We only needed 3 keyframes. I thought that was pretty simple. We can definitely use auto reframe on another clip, but let's play this back and let's see what it looks, or see how it looks. It gives it a little bit more, I think.
I think that's really cool. And then from here, you can kind of slow it down now that you kind of have that workflow, and you can see what it really looks like when you pull out the epicness out of it. So once you get into that barrel, let's see what it looks like when it's slowed down.
Yep. And this was filmed in 120 frames a second. So we're going to be able to slow it down quite a bit. And so to get into our speed, we created a couple hotkeys yesterday, but to get to where we want to set our keyframes for speed, we're going to right click on the clip that we want to set speed keyframes. We're going to scroll all the way down, and we're going to go to time remapping, and we're going to choose speed. And you're going to see that the clip changes. And now we're going to zoom in here so we can work a little bit closer on this clip right here. So this is the one that we're slowing down, and we don't want to slow down too much. We just want to slow down probably right about here. I think that's a really good spot. So I'm going to come down back here to the clip. I'm going to hold Control or a Command on a Mac, and I'm going to, and you'll see your cursor turn from black to white. I don't know if you guys can notice that, but as soon as I click Command or Control, it turns white, and I'm going to be able to select that and make a keyframe there. And from here, I'm going to drag my cursor over here to see what percentage we're slowing it down. Here we go. Let's try 50% the first time. What do you think?
Yeah, let's see how that looks. Yeah, so since we're working with a 120 frames per second, a lot of times you can slow it down all the way to like 40%, 33%.
Let's try 30. I think 30, and then we can go back up from there because we don't want it to be too slow and get too boring. But what you're going to notice is that as I slowed that down, the audio did not stretch with it. And the workaround for that is before you slow anything down, you're going to want to go to where your keyframe is. And to get very on point to where your keyframe is, you can go into your effect controls, and you can go to where your time remapping is right here. There's a drop down menu, and you can always click right here and make sure that you're at the right keyframe. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to lock this top part, and I'm going to make a cut on just the audio. There we go. We've made a cut, and you can see now it's two separate ones. This is the best workaround that I've seen. And now I'm going to add a little bit into here for a speed ramp, just to give it a gradual so it's not so fast, slow. And now we can slow this down. I'm going to drag my cursor back over here to see what percentage I'm actually at. Because as the cursor, whatever part of the line that it's over, it's going to show you what that line is at. So if I were to go here, you'll see that it's at 100 here, no matter what. Even if I were to be here, oh, I guess I'm incorrect. That's epic. Okay, perfect. So now we have it slowed down, and we have to get the sound to match it. So we're going to hit R. That's the hotkey for the rate stretch tool. We're going to hold this up. We're going to bring this over. And there we go. Now we've got the slowed down audio to go with our slowed down clip. All right, let's play this back. Let's see how it looks.
Sick.
Yeah, I think that's way better. It definitely highlights the best part of the wave and gives them something to hold on to for a little bit. And it's right before one of the cuts as well, or right before a good part of the song.
Cool. So if we see what else we're working with, like the rest of now we had a chance to kind of look at this clip in slow motion, see how you can take one moment and really make it into something more epic. So especially when you're working with a camera that has the ability to do slow-mo, keep that in mind, that you can kind of work with the speed based on how many frames per second the camera can record in. So now that we have that sort of part in there, we have something to kind of keep them awake, keep moving. And then we're going to move over to here. So what we were working with yesterday, and what you can see in this timeline to kind of get back to the main structure of the edit. And once we hop into more of these finer cuts, we can see here that yesterday I put some clips aside that I wasn't sure where I wanted them to go. So now that we have a better structure of the video, we're able to kind of connect those clips and make them a part of the rest of the edit. So we'll go ahead and just pull these clips over here, because the main thing that we were trying to do yesterday was we were trying to find a way in this story to take it from Laguna Beach to Mexico, because let's just say for this scenario, we forgot to film any B-roll possibly on the way there. Maybe we forgot to film in the airport or destination. There's plenty of times that you have a vlog scenario that you want to film or you want to tell a story or something, and maybe you forgot to capture that particular moment, and you need to go back and somehow tell a story visually. So with this particular instance here, we changed from Laguna and we recorded a couple things in Laguna, and we were able to use an old clip that I said that it was cold in the water and covered up the camera, and I transitioned right into our Mexico journey. So after these skim clips here, we were able to put these like B-roll essentially clips, Paddy looking at his camera, which is right over here. And then like random clips of us just being in the car, just getting some extra B-roll. We were able to fit that into a story. Even the iguana was able to make the cut. Yesterday, I wasn't sure if he was going to make it. So if you have these two clips here that I've cut together, these two drone clips, I cut them at a moment that I felt like it was this camera was turning here, and it's turning in the same motion between these two. So there might be a little bit of a skipping there, but I was able to put those together. And that's kind of like almost like our ending area where we will have ability to add more titles, and we're giving ourselves options to do those extra little moments that will kind of put a finishing touch or a bow onto our edit. So let's cut off some of this music here and let's get it dialed in a little more. Mind you, there's still random things over here that we can kind of head back to and see, okay, did we actually want to use something like this? But we decided that we ended up cutting out that one that we were putting in reverse motion. So we'll get that out of there as well. And now we have a more dialed in type of timeline. We can start feeling, a little bit less overwhelmed on how many things that we're picking. And we can really start putting those fine tuning cuts onto this edit and making it come to life. So one thing that was cool here that you're able to do was you were able to put the audio down when I was talking about heading out of the water. Essentially, I was like, oh, it's cold here. We're donezo. One of the cool features that I wanted to make sure that we touched on, is going to save us so much time in all of our vlogs and all these edits that we're doing, is we always have to keep people engaged in the middle of your YouTube edit. So adding captions and adding things that come up on screen are really one way to like keep people engaged into your edits. So when I say something here, they may be not really paying attention. They probably didn't hear what I was saying. Half the time I'm doing maybe two things at once if I'm watching a YouTube edit or I'm learning or something else. So adding captions with the new way that Premiere Pro allows you to do that is one way to do so. So Paddy and I were able to make the audio quieter when this part comes up, and I'll show you. So the music will dub down essentially and allow for everyone to hear what I said. And we'll be able to add that effect of captions to really be able to dial in what I actually said to make sense of the story. So let's play it here, see what it sounds like. All right, my hands are frozen. I think we're done out here. Okay, so I said, all right, my hands are frozen. I think we're done here. It's really cold, the water in California, and that water in Mexico is so warm. So that's basically, all I'm daydreaming about. So let's go ahead and try out that new captions.
Yeah, the new captions, I've been trying them out and I've been using them. They came out with the new update for Premiere Pro, and they got some really cool features that come with it. And to get to those captions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the window tab and I'm going to click that, and I'm going to find text. Let's see, I'm going to slide down and I got to find text here.
There's also captions there.
There's also captions there. Oh yeah, there we go. Captions. There we go. I don't know why I thought it was text. And then right now a new box comes up and we have all of this here. And what we're going to want to do here is we are going to click and we hit import settings. No, that one wasn't I don't think that the captions were on there. It was, excuse me.
So a lot of times too, like
Mm-hmm.
with these captions, when you're putting them on your social media accounts too, a lot of times people don't have their sound on, especially on their iPhones or on anything like that. When you know you could be doing, like I said, you could be doing something else at the same time. So maybe it's just not popping up in there.
Central graphics, yeah, it's not coming
So
up.
adding these graphics here, we can always hop back over
Mm-hmm.
to the caption portion of it once you find that there. What we ultimately do with the captions and the titles is we like to add it like a little bit here towards 3/4 of the way done with the edit or towards the end of the edit, so that way you can kind of get a feel of if your story is really making sense, really starting to pull itself together. Another thing we wanted to kind of touch on is making that the full edit actually feel more seamless. So we obviously showed yesterday how these transitions can kind of make it flow, but sometimes you get clips also that are like shaky.
Mm-hmm.
You get clips that don't really make sense next to each other, but you almost need to create a transition out of them. So if we go over to that clip, let's say like with the plane, I believe that one was super shaky.
Let's see if this
And we'll
one's
head back
right.
over to captions
Mm-hmm.
later. The clip of the plane was really shaky when I was rewatching it, and little things like that, like if we play with that clip right there, that will allow us to not have that weird flow between the clip that's so smooth and
Mm-hmm.
then the next clip that's going to be shaky, which could possibly throw off your edit even if you don't even really realize it. So let's go ahead and see what the warp stabilization will look like on a clip like this.
In warp stabilizing, what you have to do is you have to nest the clip to your sequence. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click and we're going to scroll down until you find right here it says nest. I'm going to name this plane shot and it's going to turn green. You're definitely going to know that it is nested, and you're going to go up to your effects panel and you're going to type in warp stabilizer. And you're going to find it here, and you can drag this on, or you can double click with the clip highlighted and it'll start to stabilize, but it'll say analyzing in the background. There we go. And now it's stabilized. I'm going to click back over to the effects controls. And now that it's stabilized, we're going to check out, see how that smooths. Way better than it was. And to show you the difference in that, your warp stabilizer is always down here in your effect controls. You can turn it off and you can see how much better it did. And I am a huge proponent of warp stabilizer. I think it does really great things. And in the new update, Adobe has done a lot of work to make the warp stabilization 4 times faster than what it was. And as we can see, we just did it there. And
Yeah, it looks really good.
yeah, it looks really
It's
good.
crazy
And it was
how
easy.
shaky that was before you did that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, stabilization is something that comes into handy with so many of our shots. I remember just even before the GoPro, you know, we don't always want to throw up the nicest GoPro when we're doing crazy stuff, and some of the older GoPros don't have the stabilization, but this helps a
Yeah.
lot for sure. So one thing that was cool, I noticed now we have this flow of coming from, let's rewatch this just to get a better feel of it. Kind of going to a behind the scenes shot, and that feels a lot better too.
I have an idea to make those behind the scenes shots flow too.
So it's cool that we were able to like kind of find a way to transition from skimboarding to you know, behind the scenes or normal b-roll or just things inside the town. One way that we wanted to also show you, if you don't have a transition per se between two clips, you can kind of create one on your own. So this is a clip here of Paddy, you know, taking video behind the scenes, and it kind of leads into this almost abruptly. So one way to kind of do that is we call it masking. In anything you do with going from one clip to another, you're able to seamlessly almost make it feel like there's nothing between. There's these two clips hit each other next to each other, and we'll be able to show you that right now.
And yeah, what I like to do is it's pretty simple. So we have, and the motion is kind of going the same way. The wave is coming from left to right and we're moving from left to right. So we already have that motion. And what I want to do is, I mean, you see me here And then you see me again here and see how this is behind a chair, by the way, in the foreground, that's a chair. And what comes to my mind is we have this clip here and the motion is going from left to right as well. So to be really easy with it, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change our workspace. I'm going to get rid of our source monitor because we're done picking clips and it's really just taking up unnecessary space. So I'm going to close this panel, and that's going to make this a little bit bigger for us to use and a little bit easier for us to see and focus on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go to about, let's try 25%. So it's going to get small, which is exactly what we want, but it's only for the time being. And we're going to make sure we're at the beginning of the clip. And I'm going to go to the effect controls panel, and you're going to go into your opacity tab, and you're going to select the square. It's a square. It's the easiest, and this is going to come up. We're going to have to stretch this all the way around this box. Quickest way to do that. You don't really have to make it even. We just have to make sure that this is all the way around the box. Just to make our lives a little bit easier, let's tidy it up. Let's bring it down right about here and make sure that we give some room on each side, because we're going to feather this out and we don't want to feather it and have these two clips mesh with each other. So that's good enough right there. And we're going to set a keyframe, a motion keyframe for our mask, which is here. And just like we did with position on the other clip, we're going to do it here. We're going to click this, we're going to click that time, that stopwatch, and then your mask is going to disappear, but that's okay. You can just click here and it comes right back. So we're going to do what we did before. We're going to drag along the timeline. We have our keyframe set. Okay, so this is the one that we're going to want to see. All right, and as it starts to get here, we're going to want to start to bring the mask over. I'm going to want to start to do this. And I'm also, just to be safe, I don't want this long, gradual move. I want to make sure that as soon as we go past that chair, that this entire mask starts to move. So I'm going to set another keyframe right here, and let me help you see that. We have to extend this. That's right here on the mask path. And we're going to set a keyframe. Let's bring this back to the original size. And now, as that starts to move, I'm going to bring my mask back up. And we're going to bring this over this way. And you're going to see that the screen is going to start to turn black, and that's only temporary. We're going to make sure that something fills that void. And this is how to kind of make a seamless transition. There's really not an effect or anything like that. It's just using the tools and using the frames that you have to create something like this. And now that we have that, we're all good to go. I'm going to bring this back to a fit so we can see. And we're going to get rid of that blue mask line. And now, as we go by, nothing else kind of comes through. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring this clip up on the timeline. We're going to bring it to the second row, and we are going to drag this here. We're going to find out where it starts to come in. There we go. And we can drag this out a little bit just for this sake. And you're going to see that we've masked it out. And it does that, but it doesn't look that good. We have to finish. See, it finishes, but we have to feather it out. See that hard edge? I don't think that hard edge looks very good. So you're going to want to come down here to your effects controls, and you're going to go under your mask, and you have this thing, mask feather right here. And you can feather that out so it looks like the other side of the chair. And I think that looks a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
And thanks again to everybody in the comments. We've been checking out some of these messages here. We appreciate you giving us your feedback too. Also, the captions, yes, they're on the newest update of Premiere Pro. So just make sure that you're updated to version 15.0 to try and use those captions.
Okay, so let's watch this clip full through. And like she was saying, we were we were going to, and we're creating something out of nothing. We're just seamlessly putting two clips together, even though they were on different days at different times. That's the story that we're telling. Slows down. We have that movement. It's just,
Nice.
and it's, that's really all it was. And now it's, and to be completely honest, I don't know about you. That clip's pretty stable.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think
I
this
think it's
clip
natural.
I think it's naturally stable, which fits with this as well. And these shots to me, they make sense. We're traveling. That's honestly, the vibe that I get from it. And just like that, we've kind of create where you may have been stumped. It's like, oh, how do I mesh this or mesh that? Do I have to switch clips around? Do I have to do something? No, you can kind of use that. And when you think about it next time you're filming, just a transition like that out from behind something, or, and this could have also been reversed as well.
Mm-hmm.
This could have also been going the other way too. So
Exactly.
it's kind of, whatever you feel and however creatively you see it. There's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to see. Thanks for everyone with the feedback. It's cool. Like I said, having these different moments and, being able to make something out of nothing is just really cool. And everyone's kind of getting a chance to see how we do that, like behind the scenes. So another way that we can really kind of make this flow too, let's play it back from where we're at here, coming from this wave, just to kind of get a feel and see what else we can do to it.
Oh.
Getting a little bit of a skip.
And
now you
when
can
it's
like show the render. Yep.
I was going to say, when it's skipping like that, what I like to do, sometimes, we did just add some effects. So it could be just rendering in the background. It could be doing its thing. But what I just did there is I selected the audio down at the bottom because it goes the entirety of the clip. And you'll see that it's all highlighted, I'm sure. And all I did was use the backslash key. It's this, I think it's same on every keyboard, but that's going to select everything. Or you could also do that by selecting it's an in and out point. You can take your cursor, you can go to the beginning and you can select I, and it'll highlight the entire timeline. I always like to go over here and do that just to make sure, but there's a couple ways you can do it. And we have a hotkey set up for render in and out. And we have that hotkey set up as Command R. So I'm gonna hit Command and push R, and you're gonna see the render box come up. And this is gonna take some time, as you can see, but for this instance, to not have you guys be bored, we're gonna cancel. But you're gonna see that now that line went from yellow to green. This is going to have nice, smooth, easy playback, but we're only interested in seeing smooth playback on, I believe it's these clips right here. Mm-hmm. So I am going to select that clip and drag it right here just to make sure. And that's where I think that's a good stopping point. I'm going to render just this portion to make it quick. Some clips will take a little bit longer to render depending on the resolution. If you have a 4K clip, it could take a little bit longer depending on what's done to it. But and it also depends on your software too. But now that it's rendered out, it will play automatically. But now that it's rendered out, we'll get a nice smooth playback so we can see if we need to change anything.
Yep. And I'll let that play.
Yeah.
All right.
It gets me every time.
Yeah. The iguana's rad. So this is actually, yes, it's a 4K GoPro. So most of the new GoPros can record in 4K. You just have to change the setting. Rick had a question about that. And yeah, so it's really fun to capture in 4K. What we try to do is we try and capture in 4K as much as we possibly can. I know that it takes a little bit extra to render and different things like that. But for instance, this clip, do you know if this one was recorded in 4K or 2.7?
I know this was in 2.7 120 because we were doing some skimboarding shooting too.
Yeah, so it's always situation dependent. So for instance, with this the clip here, he was recording in 120 because we were possibly getting a skim clip, which would allow us to slow that down and really understand what was going on the board and everything like that. But a lot of times some cameras aren't able to do 4K 120, so that's why we were in 4K 2.7. I mean 2.7 120. There's so many different, it can get all jumbled, but
the jargon.
Yeah, so we're 2.7 is good because it's at least a little bit more than 1080, and it's not full 4K, but it will at least allow you to work with it a little bit more. So if we see these two drone clips, these were in 2.7K. And we had a chance to look at this clip yesterday.
It makes me want to go fly.
Yeah, that's a fun clip. I was really stoked when I saw that afterwards, because having that drone fly through you is like insane. It just happens so fast, you don't even know what happened. So what we have here is a nice little kind of basically like a skeleton of what we're going to do. Like we can start fine tuning even more going from here. So what I would like to do is see how it would look to even add our logos possibly in the beginning, and then also adding in, you know, some color correction and things like that. The color correction goes a long way, but what's always important to kind of get through as much as you can get through before you get to color, because sometimes the color, you know, it's just one of those things where you want to match the whole edit, unless you're going for a different vibe. You know, everyone's story and edit's different, but sometimes you want to get the same feel or vibe for the clips that you have near each other, and you want to make sure everything's kind of put together before then. So let's see here.
For the 4K footage as well, like we've been working with here, you're able to change the resolution of your playback. Like right here, we have full resolution, we have half, we have fourth, and it all, you know, goes down all the way to 1/16. And if you're having some spotty playback like we were, I would recommend bringing this down so you get some smooth playback. I mean, we all know our footage looks good, but I mean, if you're trying to figure out if it's in focus or not, definitely, you know, do what you have to do. But if you're looking for just smooth, clean playback, that's a good place to start. It's right there, the resolution, and you can always render. I know it takes a little bit of time, but that's a good way to do it too.
100%. It's always important to make sure that you can get a fluid playback, so that way you can know what you're working with, and then you can always different parts of the edit, you know, if you're working on color and, you know, the fine tuning things, you can have it play back after rendering and make sure it's clean. But, you know, in the midst of maybe just finding transitions, it's better to put it in half or 1/4, so that way you can just get a fluid playback.
Yeah.
So if we want to like maybe move on to doing some titles and some logos, I put some logos in here. We have my logo and Paddy's logo. So that's one fun way that we could maybe add it in. We added a drone clip here in the beginning, so that way we have an option to add it here. And then we also gave ourselves the options to add it here. So this might be kind of fun too, where we can add my title in here with my logo before you pass me, and maybe your logo after we pass the wave.
After the wave,
so we can play around with that. We have a little bit more to work with as far as the clip goes here. So let's see what that looks like. We can put these logos right above on their own separate track. And then let's show a couple different options of scaling and making the logo kind of fit to the places that you want to put them. Sometimes you can even fade them in, fade them out, and different things like that. So let's look at a couple of different options and see what would look good possibly for these logos.
And here we go. What I'm going to do to start what I normally do is I'm just going to change our workspace here. We have the screen's going to stay the same size. As we can see, it hasn't gotten smaller. So we have all that to work with. And I'm going to go into our effect controls so we can see it better. But you want to make sure that you have your clip selected here. For this purpose, I like to go down into the timeline. I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to turn these on and on V2 just to make, or V1 and V2 right here, just to make sure that I'm only like really selecting here. So even if I go to the play thing, the playhead, and I select, it's going to select this one because I don't want to mess up any of the clips down here with the scaling and all that stuff that we're about to do. So as you can see, we've selected Amber's logo, And what we're going to do here is we're going to size this. It's the same thing, just like a normal clip. You're able to go in and you're able to change the scale of it. And we want this to fade in though. So it's going to be a question of opacity. So let's bring this all the way to the beginning. There's a couple different ways that you can change the opacity of the clip. We're going to look down here and we're going to zoom in on the timeline. So we have this here. Let's lower these to make sure those are thinner. Okay. And now we're looking at Amber's logo. By default, Premiere Pro has this your opacity. You can take this, you can bring it all the way down. As you can see, it's already there. And you can create keyframes natively here in the timeline by holding Command or Control. And I'm going to do it so you can see it here. But if I select that keyframe there, we have one, but it's still not going to do anything. We would have to select another one or create another one so we can have this actually fade in. And just to show it's that simple, it's so Amber Torrealba.
Nice.
It fades in like that. And we could, I mean, for me, I would say let's have it fade out.
Right when we pass those fences there.
Right when we pass the fence, probably right there.
Yep.
We would want it to be gone. So I'm going to create another keyframe here. Then I'm going to create another one here because this is where we want it to be gone. And now we'll just bring that there. And we can always bring this down this way just to clean up the timeline a little bit. And now if we play that back, we're going to zoom out here so we can see. And now when we play that back, oh, a bit too far, here we go. We're going to see if it plays back without a render. Yeah. Zooms out there, and then I would say probably we would want to add, I mean, I think that's pretty good.
Yep.
For that, for time's sake. And now we have my logo that just, and see how crazy it looks when it just shows up.
Yeah,
the fade in is way easier. Just
Yeah.
easier on the eyes.
Looks nice. Kind of gives it that cinematic feel.
Exactly. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the same thing. And nothing really has to be exact. Just because hers were a certain length doesn't mean that my fade in has to be a certain length. It's all really about feel.
Right.
And what you think's, you know, with the sound, with the clip, with everything.
And I think it would be kind of cool to put that your logo, have it come in right after you pass the wave.
Let's do that. And let's see if we can just bring that way.
Something they wouldn't be expecting to come up, and you can even cut it like right.
And so let's have it come in right there.
Yep.
So let's bring this top keyframe right here. Let's zoom in so you guys can, or so you can see what I'm doing. Here we go. We're going to bring this here. That's where we want it to fade in right there. But we're going to take this other keyframe that we have here and we're just going to bring this down probably to about there. There we go. Let's see how that plays back. Let's play back Amber's logo and my logo and see how it looks together.
It's funny that your K is
like, I know it's right. It's right there.
With the sun.
I could have done some more sizing and stuff too to kind of change this around and maybe even make it a little bit smaller. But
yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's always ways too that you could almost like keyframe it and have it like stuck on the wave before it comes. Or you can do funny things like that, like kind of like if you were over here by the fence. When the drone passes the fence, there's also ways you'd have to play around with it, but there's ways that you can take the logo and have it stuck on the fence. Mm-hmm. So that's another way too, that with keyframings, you can find your place with the logo and have it zoom in and you're passing the logo. That would be a lot more tedious keyframing and scaling and things like that. But it's just something to kind of keep your imagination going as far as, you know, what you can do with all these different controls that you're seeing here that we're doing with the logo.
Let's give them a quick, because it might be a little bit jittery, but just to give you guys, you know, we don't want to leave you hanging on something like that. If we wanted to have her logo fade in and then get stuck on the fence, it is just a question of position keyframes in Premiere Pro. And we would do it the same way that we were keyframing before our video clips. We're just going to do it with our title now. And the first thing that we did is we started with our keyframe at the beginning of the clip. And in this case, it's the beginning of her logo. Even if you can't see it, you still want the keyframe there. And it's going to come in like this. Just to be safe, I'm going to put another keyframe because I know that the fence is coming up and I think I'm about halfway to a quarter of the way through. But as it gets stuck, I want it to be, so there it is. I would say right about here. I'm going to select another keyframe and it's going to be probably, wrong one. It is going to be on the downward side right here. And I'm going to keep going again, keep going. And I'm going to change the position again. So it's back on the fence, just like this. And as you can see, every time I change the position, a keyframe shows up because we're changing what it was before. And that is a very, very quick way to do it. Like she said, it would definitely need more polishing and a little bit more love. But let's watch that back and you'll kind of get the gist that you can definitely accomplish it with keyframing, and it would have looked a lot better if it got smaller or bigger as we got closer to it and has that real sense of size. But
yeah, that all just takes time. Like whatever you want to do, you can make it actually with real time. And as you're getting closer to it, it can get bigger, or as you're getting farther from it, it can get smaller. So those are little things that you can kind of tailor towards whatever edit that you're working with and things like that. These are just different ways that we like to kind of mix around, just different things. So if you want, we could even like send that back to the way it was with fading in.
Yeah, all we have
make
to
it look
do
nice
is
and clean.
click that right there. We're going to get rid of all of those top keyframes. And now when we play it back, it's just the way it was. So you can always try there's always Command Z. You're not going to do any permanent damage to your edit if you want to try something.
Right, exactly. And it's fun to work and try different things because you never know what they're going to look like sometimes until you try. So we're really just kind of mixing around, seeing what we have to work with. But what's really cool too is, you have some of these clips and they already look, kind of pretty and fun with being underwater and things like that. But they can also have like your own style and everything kind of getting to that as well. And thank you for, also all the feedback to Voodoo Val and everyone on the chats. It's cool to know that you guys are digging what we're kind of working through. And
thank you guys.
And don't forget, we're going to be mentioning an artist spotlight here in around, let's say, 30, 45 minutes or so. We got a timer there that you can actually see for the artist spotlight, and we'll be mentioning some other people as well.
I'm stoked for the spotlight.
Yeah, I'm stoked as well. It's always great to hear from the community also, and to see and learn from everyone out there creating videos. With this here, I think it would be cool to kind of show what color can really do. One thing that you can kind of mix around with sound effects and color, I feel like they kind of go last, essentially. There's still some more things that we would like to polish up on this clip by like zooming in and things like that. But it would be cool to show some color and how, color isn't just really what for us, it's not really just adding, saturation or adding more pop to the video. It's more of style as well. And for my particular style, I like to, have more of a teal style. It's as you can see, it's the branding on my board. It's the branding on a lot of just things that I have around my brand. So if one cool clip to show the sky, maybe changing to that style would be this one here. We could do some color correction here and show how we would be able to really adjust anything from the teals to the greens and really try and add some contrast to that, because it looks like it's cool, but it can be so much cooler and so much have so much more clarity as well with that color correction.
You're not wrong. One of the things that we also do while we're shooting, and it's something that we do in camera, like with this shot, this was a GoPro shot, but I have a couple settings that we use whenever we're shooting. We're shooting in a high bit rate. A higher bit rate, it's going to render better quality videos, or better quality clips. They will be a little bit bigger in size, but that's what we got the cameras for. We want to make sure we're getting the best quality out of them possible. So we always use a high bit rate with the GoPro. And I also go in there and I make sure that it's on flat color. GoPro has their own color profile. It doesn't give you too much workable room post-processing. That's because it's supposed to look great straight out of the camera, which it actually does. But we like to tinker around. We like to change our colors, and we like to add contrast and then the darks and the colors. So we film in the fat profile, and that gives us a lot more room to work with. But if we wanted to start coloring, I'm going to lower this a little bit. We're not so much interested in the timeline. I want to see what is happening with my color and what I'm doing. And it doesn't look like we have the Lumetri color panel here. So we're going to go up to window up here.
Sorry,
and we're going to find Lumetri color. Here we are. I didn't like what that did. You can always change your workspace. Just grab Lumetri color, click and hold. I'm going to put it in here. And I'm going to bring this right there. So what I always do when I am filming in a flat color profile like this, I like to start with the contrast. It gives me a quick way to just check out there. And then I jump straight into my curves. I don't like to do too much adjusting on the curves. I like to pull down my blacks a little bit, my shadows and my blacks, and give it a slight S curve, which is just essentially adding a little bit more contrast than what we, in addition to what we just did. But we haven't touched anything in the basic panel. So that's where we're going to kind of fine tune. Like you can see that the highlights and everything are blown out. It's just not quite ready yet. And if we drop these highlights down like this, you can kind of see the detail start to come back and it's not so harsh anymore. I like to go like probably right around there. And another thing you'll notice with a flat color profile is a lot of times with photos, you'll bring the shadows all the way up, but that just makes it flatter. So I'm gonna bring those shadows down the other way a little bit more and maybe bring something back in the highlights. Just a little bit there. I think that looks good. And this is also this is very shot by shot dependent. When you're working with water and when you're working with the ocean, thank you, Adobe Autosave. You have saved me many, many times. But it's, for ever changing conditions, sometimes, the highlights are pulled up and the shadows are pulled up. It's really whatever you are kind of feeling, but let's bring up the whites just a tad and maybe drop down the darks or the blacks, excuse me, just a little bit. And to see the before and after, I'm going to scroll over to my effects controls and there's a little effects thing right here. You can click this and you can kind of see what we've done already. And we haven't added any saturation or anything like that. We've just added contrast in the highlights and the darks and the white points and the black points and set them where they need to be. But like Amber said, we do like to colorize our images a little bit. So I always like to go into the creative and I like to do a little bit of vibrance, not too much, because the vibrance is what kind of gives saturation to certain things, not the entire image. And I kind of like to play around with this, even boosting up the vibrance just a little bit and then bringing down the saturation to kind of give it that natural look that we want. But I think that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great. I think we have this vibe and this feel about us that makes us really stand out with, you want to have like your branding. So, the getting down with actually the colors in the sky, changing them, the actual hue of them would be one of the ways that we can make ourselves stand out. by changing it to, instead of that blue color, kind of changing it to a teal and really getting, more involved actually with the color. So if we want to show,
we would do that in the curves adjustment panel. We were here earlier and we just did a small little S curve, but now we're going to look at, I'm going to do this just so you can see.
Yep.
So there's the hue saturation curves. You have hue versus saturation, hue versus hue, and hue versus luma. And to break, well, I mean, we have more, but we can get into that in another time. But just for color, these are pretty important to know at least what they are. Obviously, hue versus saturation, it's what hue you're selecting and what saturation. If we wanted to decrease the blue saturation, I would click this little eyedropper here. Deny, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to click this eyedropper here and I'm going to click the blue, and you'll see that Premiere Pro pulled up all of the blues that it's selected there. And if I were to pull just these down, you'll see that the saturation comes away. And double clicking restarts that. So, but what she said we wanted to do is we want to change the color of the actual blues themselves. Yep. So we're going to select the same eyedropper and we're going to go down to hue versus hue. And we're going to change the hue of just the blues, nothing else. And when you click and hold, you'll see the rainbow come up. We're going to drag it up and you'll see those blues start to become more teal. Probably right around there. Sounds good.
Yep. And just for a better example too of how crazy this can get, I'm not sure what you guys are what anyone's working on, and could be food or it could be something funky, and you could really do some crazy stuff with this. As you can see, this is really what you're working with, just so you can just get a better example. This is how much variance you can have, and playing around with it. And it's really about finding your style. And that's the biggest thing that I'm always about for, making videos is, anybody can make a video, but it's great to find your style and what is going to make you stand out. When somebody sees a video of mine, I'm hoping that, after seeing a couple of my videos, they'd be able to pick my video out, pick my editing style out, pick our editing style out, and be able to kind of, that's where you really grow as I feel like as a filmmaker and as an editor, is really kind of growing into what you like. So definitely play around with all this stuff. As you can see, you have a bunch of points here where we can really change. It dives into, you see those colors that are coming out in that wave. So there's really a lot that you can work with. You obviously don't want to go too far on certain sides and whatnot, depending on what look you're going for. But having that blue kind of changing to that like more teal type of look is really kind of like the vibe that I like to go with because of my branding, and also the different ways that you've seen my board. And Paddy's vibes are more of that like red and black on his board. So we're not going to get too crazy and make the sky red, but you kind of get what I mean. Yeah. So it's just kind of one of those things too. And you could also like create like a presets, and I've actually created like a LUT that you'd be able to use as well, that I will probably be offering later this year. So there's different things that you can kind of use to not have to do this on every single clip. But like Paddy was mentioning before, it's important to take it, clip by clip sometimes with color. That's what I do. As much as I'm excited that my edit is done on the timeline, I still take it and I take the extra time clip by clip, and I go and I make sure that all the color looks great, because you want to make sure that, it's fluid throughout and that you don't have any weird jumps in color that would just not fit in the edit.
And there's different ways that you can go about making your life easier instead of doing clip by clip by clip and doing individual color. I shoot a lot of real estate videos, and I am working with just a solid exposure every time, whether it's my drone shots or my DSLR shots. I know that I can apply one lumetri color to all of my interior clips, and they're going to be relatively on point. All of them are going to be colored and graded typically the same. I would have to go in and do minor tweaks, but I'm not starting from scratch with every single clip, because that can get extremely tedious, especially if you're doing a lot of edits. But you can do it by simply going up to the effect controls panel up here, and you'll see that we have the lumetri color right here. You're able to, and we're on this clip. Let's go to this clip. Let's select this lumetri color. You are able to hit Command or Control C, and you can copy it. You can right click and you can copy as well. And that's the only GoPro clip that we have, but this looks kind of similar to what the skimboarding clip looked before. But when you're in your effect controls panel, we want to select this. You'll see that it just has the warp stabilizer and really nothing else. I'm going to make sure that this box is selected, and I'm going to hit Command or Control V, and that automatically copy and pastes that last color grade that we did. Just to show you one more time, just Command and V. It gives the same feel, and you would still have the same teal blue. With this one, obviously we would have to make some changes, but it's better than starting from scratch, like we were saying.
Right, exactly. Like even if we wanted to apply it to this clip here that we were looking at underwater, let's see what it does.
Let's see what this, and then we have to go back into our effects controls, and we make sure this box is selected, and we hit Command V.
Boom. And so you can see here how, like, depending on the clip, it's not always just going to be an easy, just transfer over. You have to kind of work in and out of what the lighting is of per clip. So even the curves here, we may need to adjust these on this particular clip.
That happens when it's not fully selected.
So what we are going to do basically, let's go back here and let's play around with this one individually. The watercolor is always what you have where it changes a lot. So as you can see here, that watercolor is going in and out. So you can always pull it over so it's not as green. You can even pull this over here.
Yeah, it's an easy way to isolate the saturation in one color like that.
And this makes it look like, even if I've had scenarios where I've jumped into water that was really murky, and basically it was going to look pretty much like I was jumping into like a yellow pool. So whoops, let's go back. If we go back to the hue here, we'd be able to fully just change the color of that water, make it look like exactly, and make it look like you didn't just jump into like yellow pool of whatever. So it's happened plenty of times, rivers and certain lakes, you jump in and you don't get the color that you're looking for when you're trying to match it to something else. They do it in movies a lot that maybe we don't even realize it, but you try and match that watercolor to whatever you want it on here. So you can see these obviously change it like crazy, but just to give you that example of how I probably would change that watercolor to make it a little bit more blue, just to get that vibe the way that I want it. But you would obviously be able to go in here and you can adjust and try to match based on how that looks. So now those yellows are harsh. So then you come back over here, you can make a point with the yellow and you can change it back to more natural. And so now you can see, even though I've changed the watercolor right here, oh, there's that clip. Now I'm starting to look a little bit more natural skin tone, getting back to it. And you can always click more points here and adjust from there. Like if you don't want these reds in here, you can bring down the reds here and adjust like that. So these are all just different ways that, to be honest, I spend a lot of time coloring. I'm sure Paddy does as well.
It's the best part.
Yeah.
One of the best parts.
We got to make it look, finalized essentially. These clips here, they look pretty cool out of camera, but even this one here, it looks like it definitely needs some contrast and everything like that.
I bet you just like that same clip that we did before, if we just Command V or Control V and copy, let's see, it's very, very contrasty.
But now you can adjust as needed too.
It's very quick to just take something like this, go to our curves. I think that's a good spot to start. And I also know that our shadows were pulled down a lot. And this is one of those scenarios where it's not
Completely.
necessarily best to pull those shadows down. So let's pull them up a little bit and maybe bring some highlights back too. And see, to me, I think that looks a lot better, and
Yeah,
it
we can
didn't, and it
even,
definitely shaved off some time too.
right, exactly. You can even split the difference there and kind of
Mhm.
see how that looks. 100%. And now you have that look that's not so foggy, essentially.
Yeah.
Um, and you could even have an example here where you keyframe. I think this would be a great clip too, because I'm pushing him. This is an example of motion and how you can use motion to really make your audience feel like they're into your clip. So because I jumped here and then I push him, I think it's important to keyframe inwards at him because he's running away. So let's show an example of how we would do a similar keyframe as we were doing with a scenario where he was in on the wave and going into the barrel. But this is another way and feel of where keyframing can come in handy to make people feel like they're getting pushed into the scene.
And yeah, that's what you've always told me. Motion plays a key role in just making anybody watching the video feel like they're in the video. And to do that, it's just a simple question. There's a lot of keyframing of just movement within the clip. And this is one of the, we touched on this yesterday about working with 2.7K clips or 4K clips. We're going to be able to zoom this in like we're about to, and it's not going to degrade any of the quality of the clip. So we're going to start by going to the beginning of the clip. If you're ever stuck here, you can always just hit up on your keyboard, the arrow key, and it'll bring you to the beginning of the clip. And if you hit down, it'll bring you to the end of the clip or the next clip. So I'm just going to hit up. This is the clip that we want to do where she's pushing me. All right. So I already have my keyframe set here. I don't want there to be any zooming in until she actually pushes me, maybe even a little bit kind of like before, right there.
And if you go through this motion of like putting the keyframe right when I push him and then the camera pushes in, you could have that feel of where it's static and then it's getting pushed in. So it could feel like you could, it's there.
Mhm.
And that's one way to do it. Or you could do it the keyframe coming from the beginning and it's pushing in the entire scene. And that way they don't even realize it's been keyframing from the beginning. So there's two ways to go about doing it. You choose those moments of where to keyframe. Paddy's suggestion here would be, to put it right when I push him. And so that would make you feel like you're getting pushed in. Or they may notice that you're getting pushed in and they may make it feel like, oh, I knew that was coming because of course. Or you have it keyframing from the beginning and it's punching in automatically and they don't even realize from the moment that they're watching this clip, you're getting pushed into it. So
and it just looks like it was done. It was just a
part of the motion.
Part of the motion.
Correct. So you can show almost like both ways on how like that would affect this clip and feel in general.
Let's do something a little bit more fun that's really quick. I was where I left off is this is where I want it to start pushing in right when she pushes me. But we may not want it to be a slow gradual push in. So I'm going to go just a couple frames back and I'm going to add a keyframe right here. And after this point, now I'm going to use this keyframe, make sure that I'm on it. And I'm going to, let's see, is this where, yep, that's right where she pushes me. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oh, that's not in. And see, classic mistake. I did this on position and not scale, but we do need it on both if we want to keep this clip clean. So an easy way to do it with scale is we start back and we start our keyframe. And we use the keyframes that we already have up here. We don't have to do double the work. We can go to this keyframe, we go down to scale, we create another one, and we do the same thing. So now we have this, and she's gonna push me right here. So at this second keyframe, we're going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit, right there. And then when she's done right there, I'm going to zoom back out to 50. So it gives us that feeling like it was shoved, like she actually shoved. and let's just see how it looked. And this is all about just playing around with the clip and seeing what works.
Go get one.
We got to let it rest.
These are the rendering, so you can actually make sure you can play it back smoothly, see what you're working with. You see how I was able to get you to keyframe into your face anyway, even though yesterday we made a joke about that we were going to just do some keyframing, and I happened to make a joke about putting it onto his face, and sure enough, he was the one that ended up keyframing it onto his face, not
You're
me.
not supposed to remember these things. So you're just supposed to go with the flow.
It ends up working out, but certain things to try. I think it's going to be pretty cool.
So now we have it rendered, and this is going to be more of like a jolty feel that she, you know, like she actually pushed me, or at least I hope that's how it's going to feel. Let's see.
Go get one.
See, it wasn't really jolty enough.
But it felt a little more
felt a
natural,
little bit.
Because sometimes if you do it too jolty, it can almost feel gimmicky, right? Like almost like you just put an effect. It wasn't as like manual, right? Like I feel like with this, it's almost like they didn't really notice it, but it was subtle. And sometimes, you know, for my style at least, and you know how we like to work with, you know, cinematic styles, I like to make it be any sort of effect that we put in there. I don't want it to necessarily be too obvious.
Subtle.
It's more subtle. So I kind of like what you did there. I think like that it's I think if you did it anymore, it'd be too obvious.
And to test that, if you wanted it to be smoother, you would take that last keyframe and you would pull it this way. And if you wanted it to be a little bit more abrupt, like a quick little just nudge, let's see if this actually works. Let's bring this keyframe closer to the other one. And now you'll see that it's not rendered. We're going to re-render it, and that's our hotkey is Command or Control R to render in and out. All right, there we go. And it's taking a little bit longer to render because now we're adding effects, and it also has color on there. That's why we always wait to cut for color to go last, because it helps your machine and your software overall run smoother throughout the editing process, especially when you get to the nitty gritty and you're cutting and you're trying to get everything on beat. You don't want any stutter. So color at the end, even though I wish we could do it in the beginning because it's the most fun.
Yeah.
It was a little bit different, but still.
Yeah. So I think it'd be cool. Like, you know, sometimes you try certain things, and I mean, I kind of liked it the way you had it before.
I liked it the way we had it too.
I'm not sure how many times we need to go back. We could double check here.
No.
And let's just see what we're looking at here now. Go get one. Yeah. So that was pretty cool. It was just like a little bit of an extra like push to go in there. And these are just more ways that you can kind of learn how to keyframe in your own style, in your own way, also to fit, you know, the style of your video and how it flows. So I think this clip would be really cool to show the difference in what it looked like in color as well. If we kind of go up into here and we show the highlights, sometimes if you see here, you can get that look where you want this to stand out more, or you can get that look where you want it to flow more with the actual background. I kind of like the way it looks when the highlights are up more. The shadows, I like to show the difference. If you want to show more fog, more haze, go here. I kind of like to show the difference in how crazy those clouds look and how we can kind of push in. So what I would do also on this edit would be to keyframe in and push into those clouds as well. We can add a little saturation here. And then we could really dive into not only just the curves and everything we showed you here, but playing around with the color wheels and stuff makes a huge difference when you want to like have your own grading and your own style as well. Because if you mess with the colors here, you can see the shadows have their own tint to them. You can have the midtones can have their own tint based on what you do. So let's go back here. This is the amount, obviously, but the color is controlled here. So depending on that tint that you want to have, I'm working on a trackpad, so it's a little harder for me to drag. Paddy's got control of the mouse. So what's cool is we both have control of the screen and the edit to be able to kind of move everything around on this particular edit. So
Yeah.
you can see here how these shadows, midtones and highlights can be
You can
changed
change
and adjusted to the color that you want.
adjust it to the color. You know, it was sunset out, but it wasn't quite sunset. And it's always fun to come in here, play around. The subtle changes are really what you got to work with. Too much, and it can kind of get a little bit too much. But I always like to go with opposite. That's the beautiful thing about the color wheel. If you didn't know, the opposite of red, it's always going to be here. We have, you know, red, blue, and so what and so forth. So if I select orange over here, I'm going to select blue over here and just give color contrast in my image if I wanted it to. And you can check the before and after. You know, it adds a little bit when you add blues into your shadows. They're ultimately good. It's going to darken the image a little bit depending on the blue that you use. But, you know, for the sake of this, I think that's great. And, you know, here it's where you can isolate your midtones and everything separate from the curves. Like if you put this all the way up, your midtones are going to be extremely bright. And if you bring them down here, you know, we have the opportunity to kind of separate those mountains from the fog. And like Amber said, she liked that highlight look, that dreamy kind of highlighted look. And, you know, it's always fun to just play around and kind of see, like, you know, we definitely did change the mood a little bit.
Yep, and that's what I was gonna actually touch on as well, is like the mood is everything, because with us, you know, for instance, with this, we're playing this part as, okay, this is the sunset that I actually captured on my drone, but there could be an instance where you didn't capture a clip at sunset per se, but you need to make it look like that sunset tint and that sunset hue. So that's where you would really play with those color wheels, because the color wheels would allow you to be able to actually change that that tint and that hue on the actual frame. Because if we were cutting to here and you see it's completely just daylight out, you could actually, if you wanted to, play around with these actual tints and everything, and you could make it have that tint of like an orange. Like the shadows here, I could go up and kind of give it that orange look. I could actually bring down the contrast. I could do a lot of different things to kind of give it that feel of maybe that this was not so captured at midday, that this could have been captured at sunset, and kind of match the clips in that particular way.
Yeah, and there's a really cool way that you can do this with other clips. You know, just using these sliders to kind of match everything, like you said, and playing around with it. That's where I learn the most. Is the more I use my editing software, the more comfortable I am in the field behind the camera. It's like, oh, okay, even if this was off or this was off, I know in the editing room that I'll be able to fix that. So
Yep,
it's very key.
100%.
Know your software.
Yeah, definitely play around with it more than often, because you know, you don't know what you're going to end up with. You might have something fun that comes out of it. So if we kind of move on from color, just for time sakes and how we're going to pull this edit together, one thing that, you know, we're in these final stages. You know, we've just kind of worked on, you know, some of the warp stabilization and fine tuning those transitions. If you're just joining in today to the live, we've kind of already talked about how we've put these clips together. We did some trimming and some structure of the timeline on part one yesterday, and now we're really fine tuning everything and kind of pulling it together to, you know, kind of prepare for exporting and sharing and things like that. One of the things that I want to do, always, what we like to do in our edits, is kind of put those finishing touches at the end, such as overlays and extra sound effects, because as even though we have this music here that's playing in the background, we want to be able to draw the user in more by having sound effects go along with the music, especially between clips, especially when you're having drone clips and things like that, that are really feeling like, okay, and I'm moving through the air, I'm moving here and there. We want to give that vibe. So we've actually included some sound effects actually in our bin. You can grab your sound effects, like I mentioned yesterday, from different various sources. Just make sure, you know, obviously you have the rights to them. And we even have some Adobe sounds here as well. But for instance, if we wanted to add a riser into this particular edit, we could see an example of one of the risers here. And that's just kind of like rising to what we're actually going to kind of show like this is a cool one. If we just add this here on the bottom track, we can see how this would fit into the edit, just for an example.
Volume might be loud.
And as you see, this riser ends right there. If we zoom in, we want to have it end where it actually would start the next clip, so that way it's effective. So if we move this riser here and we kind of cut it down, let's see. Well, I move it right there.
And then it could blend in with the song.
You can always make the song kind of blend in there. And so it kind of cuts in. And that's just an example. You can show how the song fades. You can fade the song gradually.
One thing that you always want to do is make sure that the effect isn't too much.
Yep.
I always like to bring down the volume a little bit and then work through after that. A good way to have this kind of fade out smooth into this. We can always set the volume keyframes here for the actual song if we wanted to just lower it a little bit and have a gradual fade in, and then have this kind of take precedence. We have to go to the effects control panel. Here we go. I'm going to type in CR, and that's going to give me constant power. I'm going to go through here, and this is going to help that fade out and fade this into that, but we don't want that too much. So.
This is an epic riser. It's made to kind of cut abruptly, like on the sound.
Okay.
So for this particular one, you wouldn't necessarily have to add a constant power, but that's good for clips, especially when you want to fade out the sound effect there.
Yeah, where you don't want to have the jolt from one to the other.
Exactly.
But here we can pull this down this way, and we can try either way. Let's see. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it doesn't necessarily have to fit for this particular edit. I just wanted to show you an example of what a riser was, especially if you find sound effects like that. To be honest, I feel like it might be a little too strong, but what's good here is we can always save it for later as well. You can always come into here and you can maybe put it aside. Like sometimes I just don't know if I'm going to use something, so I just throw it aside for now. And that way you've already done those effects and everything like that. You don't have to redo all of that as well. We can come right back into the bin here and see what other sound effects that we're working with, including something like a whoosh, because when we're going from one clip to another, a whoosh sound is really cool, especially when I'm jumping right here and you see me end up there. I'll leave the cursor there because it would be cool to kind of do like a whoosh into that. So it could be, let's just go with like a simple sudden. Let's try this one out here. So we can come here and play that back. And so as you heard that, you can move it over and you can get it, oops, you can get it right where you want it in between the two clips. Boom. And so now it just feels a little better, like we actually jumped into that clip. Like it's not just like, oh, we just ended up there. Boom. Go get one. There you go. So little things like this throughout are super important for giving that feel and that vibe. Like when I jump underwater here, I think it's really important to add a whoosh here. We can add even like a really cool long one, like we'll probably, let's go with like a wind one or an echo.
Another cool effect you can do for going underwater is you can add a low pass filter to the footage and it'll make it sound like you're actually underwater.
So that's one of the tricks that tricks of the trade, I would say, like that I really like to do with my edits. When I go underwater, I like to like muffle the sound with that low pass he's showing you, or he was explaining, and we can actually show you how to do that after this. So there we go. We went underwater and we had that sound effect. So let's go ahead and show that low pass. And what we want to do is we want to add it only on that section of the water footage.
So we want to double check, make sure, okay, so we are underwater here. That's the clip that we want. And we are going to go into our effects control or not effects control, just effects panel. And we're gonna type in low pass. Here we are. We're gonna take this, click, hold, and drag onto the audio clip. And when you go back to effect controls, you're gonna see we have the lumetri color, and we're down here at sound, and we have our low pass.
Yep. So all your effects will show there. And you can adjust them also from there. One cool way too to really make it effect worthy is if what he's done here is he's added the low pass filter to the clip sound itself. But what really kind of wakes people up is if you add it to the music itself. So if you were to take the music right where it starts and it ends on this clip and you add the low pass feature onto the music, then we're going to really get the ultimate muffled sound. And let's just see what it sounds like. And so it's kind of giving that effect like, oh, shoot, like you went underwater. But we want to be able to hear the music through that as well. So those are just like different ways, like you could do it like that with that effect. Or what you could do is you could actually take the music and you could lower it through the other effects. So if we lowered this music maybe to -57. So we still heard the music in the background, which I like, because you're underwater, you would still hear what's going on, but you don't hear it as much. And so that's another thing too, that you can always keep in mind to kind of wake your audience up. And then their sound comes right back there as well. So those are just different ways too that I always like to, when we're making videos, we have a lot of underwater areas. We have a lot of places where it's going to be kind of, you know, up and down and really giving the user that feel. So speaking of water clips and crazy sort of edits like us, I think it's time to do the artist spotlight. And I'm really excited for that today. If all of you are ready, thank you for all the submissions and everything like that as well. Thank you all for being so involved in the chat. I'm stoked to kind of, let's do it. Let's address that artist spotlight. So if you haven't had a chance to follow skimboarding before us, let's just preface it that way. Skimboarding is kind of like a mixture. Obviously you're seeing, it looks like surfing, but it's without a fin, and you start from the sand and then you end up on the water. We have a person in our actual community that actually makes skimboarding videos, makes surfing videos and all that stuff. Her name is Skylar Wilson, and she's our artist spotlight today. And she's been making videos and has, you know, award-winning cinematographer. Let's go ahead and show you some of her work here. Basically, Skylar's also a professional skimboarder, and that's kind of what's also probably helped her get the eye for the things that she's making. So if you're out there creating and things like that, doing something and being involved with the things that you love naturally can really help your perspective and your eye. This is some of Skylar's work. You can find her on @SkyRar. This is one of our actual team riders, the same skimboarding team that we ride on. And this is her video of capturing Johnny at one of these infamous spots here in California. We're coming at you live from Laguna Beach, and this spot actually is only 30 minutes away from us. And it's one of the most, like the craziest skimboarding spots in the world. These are some other work that she's done as well. This is her photography and things like that. Skylar's been working behind the camera on so many different projects, and it's really cool to kind of spotlight someone that has always been behind the camera, similar to you, and is not always in front of the camera, and really kind of show that credit. She's got a really awesome portfolio and sense of humor. You can check out her work, like I said, @SkyRar on all her social media accounts. and you'll probably get a good feel of really cool skimboarding, surfing, just like being in the scene, of what we love, just being out in nature and the community and everything like that. I will say, if like there's anyone that like I trust, if I'm like, all right, make a dope edit, it's Skylar. So definitely, if you have a chance and you have a moment after the stream, head over to Instagram or TikTok or anywhere where you can find Skylar on @SkyRar, and definitely check out her work. We've done a few projects with her, and it's been fun.
It's really good working with her, and she's good on a skimboard too. She can skate, she can snowboard really well. And it's, what I've learned is it definitely helps shooting, skimboarding, and action sports, especially the action sports that I am familiar with, that I participate in. And yeah, we've done a lot of projects with her, and it's always a joy working with someone that has kind of that similar mindset to you. She likes skating, I like all those things. So yeah,
it helps to work with like a community and a team that kind of has that same chemistry as well. Mm-hmm. So thank you guys again also for just being involved. Like I said, the community is everything, and we're really stoked to share one of the people that inspires us on a daily, weekly basis, all the time, really just sharing out there on Instagram and sharing what we're doing. We really kind of keeps all of us going. So especially like here in California, where you randomly have this like week of freezing cold and rain, that like normally it's like sunny all the time.
No consistency.
You just gotta have those days where you stay motivated past all that stuff. So turning to the community and artists like this, it gives us motivation, keeps us going. So I mean, I think this has really been fun, kind of putting this particular travel edit together, like having this video that we really just had clips from Mexico like scattered, and then we had some older footage from Laguna Beach, where we are now in California, and coming back from this trip and being like, well, how do we make a travel video when we don't have everything? Or how do I take one of my old travel videos on random footage that I have, maybe for any of you out there that have been on a trip before, the pandemic or anything like that, and you really want to just tell a story through those older clips, and it's time to use them. This is another way that you can do so. Let's just see what we're working with as far as what we got right now, just to see a general idea. We'll try and get it polished up even more after this live stream, and we'll try and share this with you guys as well on my YouTube channel. It's at Amber Torrealba on any of my social channels, including my YouTube. So Paddy will also be sharing in the next few months, launching his YouTube channel, sharing some of his FPV work, so you can see more behind the scenes on that as well. So let's see these next steps in the sharing in general, which is what we do the most, is share. So let's see those final steps and how we take this YouTube video essentially, and we'll play it back really quick, and we'll see how we can put that into actual sharing format on Instagram and all that stuff as well. So let's see what we're working with here. Go get one. All right, my hands are frozen. I think we're done out here. And we got a little bit of a skipping here on the playback, but so yeah, you get just a general feel. Then we hop right into obviously this clip here, which is cool. I really like that. And we'll definitely fine tune all of this using all of the tools like I mentioned to you, and put this into like the finalized edit, and we'll try and share that with you as well. But for now, basically what you see is a kind of a basic story, a basic timeline. We want to take this timeline and we want to put it into Instagram sharing format. What I always recommend you doing is sharing your actual social media videos into the native format that someone on the other end is going to be viewing it. So it's always good to, if you're going to post on Instagram, try and post in, you can go ahead and start doing that. It's always good to post it in 4x5, if you want to try and take up as much screen on Instagram. If you're going to post on Reels, 9x16. And this is an example here of how we're creating that new sequence.
And what we're going to do is you want to create a new sequence for this. And when you're in here, we chose the 24 frame a second timeline, and we're going to go into our settings. And this is where we're going to change our canvas size. And for Instagram, it's the 4x5, and the horizontal is going to be 1080. And the vertical is going to be 1350. That is going to give us a ratio of 4x5, and you can confirm that right here. I always do for the maximum quality output. I always click maximum bit depth and maximum render quality. What these are saying is that it's going to increase export times and whatnot. And this is something that I would have, had, and this is something that we can use all the time. So we are going to start, and that's Instagram 4x5. We have our sequence right here. And that's how I have this set up, because when we export, I don't have the names of the actual projects. I just have the sizes that we use. And now we have a brand new timeline. There's nothing here. This is why we start from large to small in terms of frame size. Right now we are working with the biggest frame size, the 1920 by 1080. And I am going to be able to take all of this. We're going to highlight everything. We're going to copy. And we are going to bring this over here. This is going to paste wherever our cursor is. So we're going to bring this to the beginning, and I'm going to hit Command or Control and V to paste. Now we have our entire project there. And it looks like I did something incorrectly, and we are not in a 4x5 format, I don't think. Let me double check. No, we're not. We're still in a 1920 by 1080 format. I'm not sure what happened there. So it's an easy fix. We're going to create a new sequence. And we have that. There we go. We go into settings. And we have our video, audio. Here we go.
There you go. 1080 by Instagram tip for all of you. 1080 by 1350 is if you want to get that full, the biggest that you can go for an actual post instead of a Reels.
Here we go. And we're going to rename this.
And if you need a Reels or TikTok, you can do 9x16, which is actually 1080 by 1920. So it's like the reverse of what you're seeing wide.
And just to make our lives easier, we are going to save this preset Instagram 4x5. So now we're not going to have to come in here and do this every time. And right, see, we have 1080 by 1350. So we're going to save the preset. We're going to name this IG 4x5. And okay, we cannot contain that. That's all right.
Sometimes when you use special characters, it doesn't let you actually save that there.
There we go. It's going to wait. And that preset will be found in your customs bar right here. So we had IG 4.5. I always still name it. So we're going to have that. Now we have that 4x5 crop that we were looking for. And we still have our clips from before still copied. So we're going to paste them onto our timeline again.
We got about another 5 minutes left here. So thanks again for all of you sticking around to see the final extra little setup we have here for sharing and readjusting your sizes. We'll be finishing up here in just a bit. Okay.
So what we would do here is this is what I wanted to save the Adobe Auto Reframe for. You can see that some of the clips, they're not going to quite fit. So what we're going to do is let's zoom in a little bit here so we can see. We're going to work on this clip and we're going to go to our effects control or our effects panel and we're going to type in auto and you're going to find the auto reframe come up. And this is the software that Adobe has come up with that's going to automatically reframe this to where it needs to be. And you'll see that it's also going to try and put me in the center as well. It's a really, really cool tool. And all you have to do is click, hold, drag it over, and you can see how it already did it.
Saves so much time.
It saves so much time. We did it the other way in the beginning, but you'll see in the effects control panel, our auto reframe is right here. And if we take it off, you can see the work that it's done. And if we play that clip back, it's got to render out a little bit. We're going to just render that again.
But what's cool is now you're going to have you're going from this wide clip and now it's able to automatically track. The Adobe Sensei will find, where the subject is and be able to follow it through.
And now let's watch this clean through.
And then you see here that it's back to the other one there. So you'll be able to auto reframe each one of these clips to be able to do that for you as well.
And as simple as, and you cannot command, oh, wow, it flipped it.
Yep. And so sometimes, the clip was automatically upside down in the beginning. Yep. So keep that in mind, certain clips when you do it, the way that it could possibly read it.
If that were to happen, because the original format of the clip was upside down, that's why the auto reframe did that, like she just mentioned. So what we're going to do is we're just going to scale this in. We're just going to scale that in. And that looks good. We haven't changed anything. Oh, it's set keyframes because we have those keyframes set in. So another easy way to do this is a quick workaround is we're going to go back to our project panel and we are going to add a new adjustment layer. And that adjustment layer, you're going to be able to bring this over the clip just like that. And you're going to be able to adjust scale independently from those keyframes that we had previously that are on the clip. So now that I have the adjustment layer, nope, I'm not correct, unfortunately. So what I would do one more time, another workaround real quick is you just type in transform and you will see transform come in. Or not.
Yeah, so a lot of these different ways to kind of work around these clips here, it comes in handy, especially when you're sharing on, like I said, multiple different platforms, especially 9:16, because with 9:16, you're going to see an even more inwards crop there as well.
So see, now we have that transform that's on this adjustment layer that operates independently from the scale keyframes that we have here that are actually on the clip. So if I were to zoom in, all the way as much as I needed to, or whatever I would need to, it works independently from that. So now that we know that that clip is all good, that's typically what we would do to go through each one of these clips.
And what's cool is you can see a lot of them are actually pretty close on point. And you have that crop. And what you're doing is you're taking up essentially more real estate on Instagram. If you're posting in horizontal and you post on Instagram, people are looking at it on a vertical phone. So the problem is you're going to see it so small. Whereas on YouTube, posting horizontally makes more sense because people are watching it maybe on a TV or turning their phone sideways, and it's actually more native to the YouTube platform. Of course, there's new things like with Reels and TikTok, and even YouTube has vertical video viewing now as well, so to be able to adjust to that. But these are just a general rule of thumb to be able to kind of
so good.
adjust to your Instagram formats, because sharing, you know, on the native platform and the way that people want to see things is the way that you're going to give your audience the best experience possible, because it's not always just about the video that you make, it's about how you present the video. And these are just different ways that once we've already created the video, we got to go in and do the extra little work to be presenting it properly to the audience that we want to show it to as well. So if you want, let's go ahead and show how we make a 9x16 sequence really quick. And then that way we have our full roundup of essentially YouTube 4x5 and then a 9x16 sequence. If we go ahead and add that in to there as well. And keep in mind, let's say you're on the go and you've already exported this wide version. You can check out my older Adobe Lives with Premiere Rush. There's also another way to use the same auto reframe with Adobe Premiere Rush, and you'll be able to take this already exported video. If you already have it on your phone, you can always airdrop it to your phone if you have an iPhone, or send it over, you know, maybe Dropbox, WeTransfer if you have a Android. But once you have the clip on your phone, you can also do this exact same auto reframe by pulling it up into Adobe Premiere Rush and changing it to 9x16 or 4x5 there as well. So Paddy's over here just kind of creating another sequence and getting that 9x16 format ready. And so we have basically our lineup of YouTube 4x5, 9x16, different videos that we're able to share across each different social media platform, and be able to give our audience that full experience. They can also, what we would do is we would take maybe possibly one clip out of that sequence and even be able to tease the 9x16. So what Paddy's done here is he's put this entire sequence on here for 9x16, which we can ultimately auto reframe, crop, and share the full video. But what would be cool is, like I mentioned in the other part that we were working on yesterday, is that you could actually take a teaser from this, and we can actually delete all of this, take this teaser from one of my better waves of the clip. So let's just say, like, okay, this is like the better clip of the whole video. So we've essentially taken this teaser and we've allowed this to be a full clip. So in the video, they only got to see the clip of this particular wave from the cut from the other clip of GoPro, because we had two different angles. And one cool way to make more out of what you're working with and more out of the videos that you're working with is to pull them apart like this and give them more. So if I have this clip here and I want to give it more, give it that full view, I go here, and now before this video comes out, that wide YouTube video, I would be able to tease this on Instagram and be able to show this full clip and say something's coming.
Now let's do that quality.
And it's sorry if it's skipping on your end a little bit, but we can change that quality.
You give it a second to catch up to itself.
But what's cool is I can share this video now. Let's say if I have pre-planned this YouTube video to be coming out this Friday, you know, what I would want to do is I would want to post this one clip to my Instagram story or my Instagram Reels, maybe tease it and say, hey, like, something's coming this Friday, be prepared, be ready, the full video is coming. Then maybe on Thursday, I can come back in here. We could even go back a little farther and we have our full edit here. I can come back in and I can find another clip, like this drone clip here that we have. Let's go back and let's find this epic drone clip that
we don't have the full edit yet.
Yep. Oh yeah.
There we go. There's the full edit.
Didn't go back all the way. And we have this epic drone clip here that has our title. So what we can do is we could just delete all of that. Let's get rid of all of that. And now we have this title. With that, we can even auto reframe, going into our effects and we can try and find the
Well, it
auto.
might even be even better than auto reframe because it does.
Yep, because there's two
I think
people.
we would just use scale.
Yep, this
And
is a
let's
good
just,
example
yeah, let's
of
just scale it back up.
when auto reframe is working, it's going to try and find one subject. So this is an example where maybe auto reframe would have trouble because it's seeing two subjects and it's a drone clip. So in this case, we would want to just scale it and prepare it for a teaser. And here's your teaser. Boom. And now this clip can be used separate. So now what we created right in front of you here is you saw us create over these last 2 days a full YouTube edit, 1 minute, a little bit tops, and we've kind of created a video that's in full. Then we've created a separate version of that video in 4x5, which you saw us creating here and making it into the proper format. And then from there, we took it into 9x16. And not only can we take it into 9x16 as a full video, but we can take it into multiple different teaser assets. Yep. So right here, what we've done is we've created 4 different videos for you, 1 in wide, 1 broken down, and 2 teasers. And we already have 4 videos ready to go for a launch video on Friday. So when you're preparing everything and you're ready to like market essentially what you're making, you want to make sure that you make the most out of what you have. And that's kind of what we've been talking about this entire time here is, we don't always go into it having everything that we want. We don't always go into it coming back with everything that we want. But what we can do is we can use these tools in Adobe Premiere Pro. We can use all of our tools and what we've learned across the way with, moving things around, seeing how things can match cut and everything like that, and trying to make something, out of, whatever we have. So I wanted to thank everyone again for joining us today, joining us. If you joined us in our part 1 yesterday, feel free to refer back to that if you have any questions. And we hope that you get a chance to even reach out to us. You can follow us. I'm at Amber Torrealba on Instagram and YouTube, and all of my other videos that you've seen us work on are on that YouTube. And then you can follow Paddy Mack.
I'm at Paddy Mack. That's Paddy Mack with 2 Ks.
He's at Paddy Mack with 2 Ks. Whoever knows the real Paddy Mack out there with at Paddy Mack with 1 K, let him know we need to get that Instagram taken care of because he's had it for a while. 2015.
Yeah,
so we're missing out. So we had a lot of fun with this. It's really great to be able to work together, me and him all the time, but it's even better to be able to share that experience with you and for you to be able to see the behind the scenes. Feel free to join the rest of the Adobe Live schedule today and moving forward. There's so much that I always learn from Adobe Live and this community of sharing what we do as videographers, filmmakers, and creators. So thanks again. It's been fun. And I'm Amber Torrealba, and this is Paddy Mack, and we'll see you around.
Thank you guys, everyone.